So I'm minding my business yesterday and I started getting DMs. One, two, three. Look at my Twitter. I'm getting added. And it was all the same video. It was my guy, Eric Paschall, in a pickup game looking like Radio Shack Rick Ross. And I was like, say it ain't so, EP. Say it ain't so. And so shout out to y'all that sent me the video and shout out to dude that put out the video. I'm assuming you wanted my reaction. Now, EP Eric Paschall was the 41st pick a few years ago for the Warriors, second round out of Villanova. Big, bully power forward, undersized power forward, Paul Millsap shades, comps, right? And his rookie year, he burst on the scene. He got a ton of opportunity because that was the year Steph broke his hand like the first week of the season, right? Y'all remember that year? There was a whole lot of Kelly Oubre doing that, right? Jordan Poole looking like Jordan Poole does right now. All right. Eric Paschall, 14 points per game that year. Had such a good rookie season. And remember, there wasn't a whole lot to be excited about that year, right? It was a tank year. And my guy who lives in the city early in the year, he ordered me the EP jersey before it was even being made. Like he did the special custom order of it. And I was hyped about him, right? But there are always signs, right? We all can see red flags in a young player or somebody, right? A red flag is a red flag. It's bright, it's obvious. That's why it's called a red flag, right? But what about yellow flags? What about kind of hidden symptoms of things that may come? Because I remember the first yellow flag from Eric Paschall. Do you remember what his three-pointer looked like? Right? Because that was kind of the thing, like, okay, he could get in the block. He had a mid-range game, a very physical dude, but you got to shoot the three in today's game, obviously. And he shot the three. I think maybe the best comp would be like Jordan Clarkson, right? Where he'd elevated about as high as he could and he kicked his legs. He bent his knees, almost like it was like a pull-up 15-footer, which that's how he shot his midi as well, which was much better, right? Now, Jordan Clarkson has success with a high elevating kind of awkward looking three ball, but Jordan Clarkson is probably a $195 soaking wet, right? And he hovers up and down the court. He's a much different built and style of player. And so the Warriors were like, hey, you got to change that three ball, dude. You're going to have to learn to shoot like more of a set shot or something. You can't shoot it like it's a pull up mid-range shot. It's just not efficient. And I remember Paschall saying, yeah. I'll do it this summer. I'll change it this summer. And I was like, I don't like that. And shout out my patrons, because y'all remember this in real. You remember when this happened, right? And I was like, I don't like that, dude. I was like, I don't like that. Because I was hyped. I was on the EP train, man. I had the jersey. But I was like, I don't like that. I was like, that's a bad look to me. And one, all you're doing is reinforcing the bad muscle memory of this shot that you need to change. Right. And then it also kind of represented to me like, all right, dude, like I just didn't like him putting it off. And that was the sign. Right. And then sure enough, the summer comes, the off season, and he gets back into camp in the fall. Not only is he heavy and a little out of shape, same shot. Some of these things you have to correct right away. Right? There's certain things where it's like, oh yeah, you're gonna have to work on your left hand in the offseason stuff. No. Your jump shot, like the sooner the better. Right? And that was the first sign. Now, he played 2 seasons for the Warriors, and he started a third in Utah, was traded to Minnesota. The bottom line is Eric played 158 total games in the NBA. And I think the weird kind of tricky thing about it was coming from Villanova. And this was the Jay Wright Villanova program, right? You see all them boys in New York, right? They kind of have a type, right? When you're drafting a Villanova player, it's like, all right, you're going to get a hard-nosed, disciplined guy. And so it was kind of baffling that EP kind of made it through the Villanova program and then fell off so quickly in the NBA, because certainly he has the talent, but he doesn't have the discipline to stay in shape. And so you saw him in this pickup game with, I think, was it Paul Millsap in there? That's the irony because he was kind of the comp. It was like an undersized power forward bully ball. And just to touch on these signs, right? Because again, especially when we're trying to project out these young players, you heard Gilbert Arenas the other day. He had this kind of joke about, hey, if you got good hair in the NBA, you probably ain't that good. You probably ain't that good, right? And what he's alluding to is kind of the fact that it's like you're paying attention to the wrong things. If you're showing up in these weird ass fits and your hair is always done up perfectly, like you probably ain't in the gym shooting with me, right? And again, the signs. And I'll bring up two other former Warriors, the signs. Remember Patrick McCaw? Remember PMAC? That's what I called him, out of UNLV. We thought he was a steal. Was he like 27th, 28th pick? He was supposed to be the Andre Iguodala replacement. Big combo guard, defensive oriented. And he played. He played a bit. He had that nasty fall that was certainly scary. I think it was in Sacramento. Remember they carried him out on a stretcher. But the point was he held out the qualifying offer when his deal was up. Do you remember the holdout? This was during the KD like championship run. He held out and was like, no, I want more. I need like a bigger role. I think his dad was his handler. That might have been the issue. And it was like, all right, bud, like we like you, but we don't like you that much, you know? And that was, maybe some would say, a red flag. So maybe that's not fair. Maybe that is a red flag. But that was like, to me, a sign like, oh, we'll see how this goes. And sure enough, I think the Cavs signed him. And then he went on to Toronto. He was on that Raptors championship team, actually. But he fizzled out of the league super quick. And I think the first sign was that holdout against this dynasty of a team. And it was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing, right? James Wiseman. You know, and I'm sure there were a lot of signs, a lot of different flags for different people. But I know the first one for me was, and again, just like Paschall, I was with the Wiseman pick. I was. I'm not here. I understand why they took him. Mistakes happen, right? I don't think they recognized it in time. But I remember we picked him and footage started coming out of him training. Because remember, there wasn't any college footage, but like one game at Memphis, right? High school footage, you couldn't do much with that. He's 7'1". And so footage is coming out of him in the Bay Area training with his trainer, who looked like Tywin Lannister. I'm talking, dude was about 5'6" in Tim's. And he had him doing all this guard work. Between the legs, dribbling, just guard work. And I was like, again, my patrons can vouch for me. I was like, yo, I don't like that. Like, I don't like that at all. But we'll see, right? This was before he even had played a minute. But that, to me, was the first red flag, yellow flag from James Wiseman. And again, so if you pay attention, there are these symptoms. Some of them are hidden with these young guys. And you're like, I'll give you one this weekend, and some of you may disagree, and some of you may have liked it. I like Benedict Mathurin out of U of A. He was out here now with the Pacers. I like him. There was some yellow flags for me this weekend. The $25K bet at the foul line and just some of the stuff he was trying to do. Like, you like a dude that's aggressive and confident. We'll see. He's looking a little J.R. Smithy All-Star weekend. But let me bring it back to the Warriors here, because looking at our rookies now, our young guys now, and Brandon Pajemski and Trace Jackson, that's what's so encouraging, because not only are they not showing yellow flags or red flags, they're showing a lot of signs and symptoms, green flags, that they're going to have good, long NBA careers. And it can just be, I mean, it's up to your own interpretation. Again, so I can't tell you where you see these things, and I have my own. Like, I remember for MLK Day, they had Trace speak on Martin, and he just did it so eloquently. And just the way Trace, because Trace hasn't had as much opportunity as Pods yet, right? Obviously, but the way Trace speaks and carries himself, his posture, there's just these signs that he is a young man. He's not a kid. And I just really like the way he carries himself and speaks about the game and about life, right? And Pajemski, like, there was a story today about him yapping at a Draymond in practice, right? And people were like, "Oh, the tweet I saw related it to Jordan Poole trash talking," right? There is such a difference. Context is needed when it's about basketball. Like that's within the lines. But we won't speculate on what Poole was talking about, right? But it's these two young guys are very encouraging. Obviously, Kuminga and Moody, you can put them with the young guy category, but they've had a longer stretch here. And even Moses, man, and the lack of opportunity, the way he's carried himself and continued to work and be ready when he's called upon, signs that they'll have a long NBA career. But EP, get it together, man. Get it together. And I don't want to kick a man when he's down or pick on him, but a lot of people had sent me that footage and wanted my take, and I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. There were signs along the way in those 2 seasons with the Warriors, and then they were just like, yeah, no, we're cool. You don't have the work ethic. And so maybe he can find a spot overseas if he can get into shape, because he certainly has the talent. It's the discipline and work ethic that's betrayed him. But keep an eye out when looking especially at young players in their first couple years, and you can find these little signs and symptoms that aren't always obvious that can point you in which direction that player is going to go. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.